You absolutely need to see this. Joe Rogan is back to talking about Donald Trump and his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, and Rogan just made Donald Trump's bad week even worse. In this episode, he's talking about how the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself have treated the MAGA base and, quite frankly, the American people as children, thinking that, oh, we'll just ignore everything he's done with Epstein, the cover-up that is clearly taking place of these files. And when Joe Rogan, someone who endorsed Donald Trump before the election, had him on his podcast for a 3-hour episode, is saying that, yeah, this is some shady crap and what Donald Trump is doing is not right, that's pretty significant. So I want to show you two different clips from this Rogan podcast where he and his guest, Mike Baker, are talking about the Epstein files. Before I do that, make sure to subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, comment some American flags, some hearts. It all goes a very, very long way. I greatly appreciate it. And let's dive into this first clip and see what Rogan now has to say about the man that he once supported.
Relationship with Satan.
Oh, God. We could spend the entire time. People are like, oh, they're going to talk about this the whole time? But yeah.
The Epstein stuff is so crazy because when Kash Patel was on here and he was like, there's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say. My thought was, and people are like, why didn't you push back more? My thought was like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the internet do its work because there's nothing I can. The guy's saying there's no tapes, there's no video. That doesn't make any sense. Everyone knows it doesn't make any sense. And then he didn't know about the Michael Baden stuff, the autopsy stuff, where it showed that he had 3 broken bones in his neck, which never happens when you hang yourself. Even when you like leap from somewhere with a rope around your neck and it snaps your neck, you never have 3
and he's
broken
in a prison
bones.
cell. He's not launching himself off the first floor balcony.
The whole thing was nuts. And then he's like, well, we have a film. We're going to release that film. And the film has a fucking minute missing from it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think we're babies? Like, what is this?
Also, you got people, including Dan Bongino, right, making bank for a couple of years talking about how awful it is, and we got to get this shit, and this is a huge conspiracy, and then you release a 2-page memo that says, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, because you're walking by your bedroom window and you see a little laser,
red
laser moving across your chest.
Yeah, but it really is. It's so look. You know me. I'm not a conspiracy guy by nature.
You are today.
But I am today. Today, I'm fully on board with this shit.
Everybody's in today.
Yeah, no, but they're actually doing right as we speak. And I find this fascinating. Is that the Assistant Attorney General, Todd Blanche, is down in Florida for an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. Right? And she's serving 20 years in a Florida prison for sex trafficking. Right?
To who, though?
What's that?
To who?
Well, he's down there to interview her.
But I'm saying she's sex trafficked to
who? She was a co-conspirator of Epstein's, right?
But don't you have to have a person who you're sex trafficking to?
Exactly. And they talked about the victims somewhat during her trial. It was it was a very difficult trial in the sense of, they're trying to protect certain victims and others were coming forward. But, my surprise was nobody from DOJ has ever, according to her legal team, nobody has ever interviewed her from DOJ, right? So, Department of Justice. So this is the first time.
I'm going to pause it right there. And they continue to talk about Epstein, which we're going to go through in a minute. But this is something that Joe Rogan has specifically taken issue with Donald Trump, because not only has Donald Trump, the man that he supported, come out publicly and said, like, yeah, I'm going to release all the files. And, shortly into my term, they're all going to be out there. Radical transparency. That's what Donald Trump promised. Not only did Donald Trump say that publicly, but Kash Patel went on his podcast and looked him in the eye and said, yeah, there's nothing really here. And, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino are the same guys, and Mike Baker pointed this out, the same guys who have made millions of dollars, become incredibly wealthy men based on the conversation surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. They use this to rile up their base for so many years to get people to vote for Donald Trump on the promise that he's going to release these files. And then they backstab them. And then they say, oh, there's nothing here. It's all just meh. And Donald Trump's the one that's covering up the documents, saying that it's a hoax by the Democrats now, apparently, according to Donald Trump. It is all so shady. And when Donald Trump has Joe Rogan, who undeniably has one of the biggest podcasts in the world and is one of the biggest voices in this kind of political media space we're seeing. When Donald Trump has someone like Joe Rogan saying, this is some BS, that is devastating for Trump and his base. A lot of people who watch Rogan vote for Trump. That's just objectively true. It's a more conservative audience. And when they hear this person that is very influential, somebody they appreciate, somebody they look up to saying, yeah, Donald Trump is clearly engaging in some form of cover-up, that's really bad for Trump. I want to show you this next clip from the podcast where they all were talking about the files a little bit more, and then we'll discuss it after. Take a look.
Conspiracy got accepted today, apparently, but there's shit there.
Well, you've said multiple times that if there's one that you think looks really bad, it's that one.
It's that one. But I going back to, I know I'm bouncing around here, but going back to the Epstein thing, I don't understand how they handled this so poorly, right? For Pam Bondi to come out and talk about the files and oh my god, and then like within a blink of an eye, they come out with this bullshit Sunday night memo saying there's nothing to see.
How could there's just a lack of coordination?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
that makes sense.
I think it's a messaging problem is always kind of a key element of the Trump administration, whether it's this one or not. And now look, that's not I'm not knocking a lot of the policies. I like a lot of the policies that come out of this administration. This one and the previous, the first administration. But I'm just saying, a hallmark of a Trump administration is the ability to have a self-inflicted wound, shoot yourself in the foot because of messaging, usually, right?
Right.
So I think they've done it again, and I don't see how they walk this back. They're trying to, I think, with this interview with Ghislaine Maxwell to say, look, we're trying, we're talking to her,
But how does Pam Bondi say we have thousands of hours of footage, and then Kash Patel says we don't have anything that you're looking for?
Yeah,
and then Tim Dillon said he has lunch with J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance says that 10,000 hours is commercial pornography.
Right. Yeah. You think this freak show of Epstein wasn't like, it didn't have hidden cameras or wasn't taped and shit? Or what?
100%.
I mean, come on.
So, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing about that house they had in New York City, which is, by the way, for sale. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, nobody wants to buy it. Like, you want to buy Epstein's house?
Do the cameras convey?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you got to gut the walls. How are you going to know what the fuck is in there?
Yeah.
Imagine you're walking around your house naked and you think that the CIA is or your organization, or whoever it is.
To be fair, the agency's got a lot of hours of videotape of me walking.
Yeah, I mean, well, conversation went off the deep end a little bit at the end there, but nonetheless, they are really digging deep into this whole Epstein thing that Donald Trump is engaging in. With this just blatant cover-up, this idea that he's going to release the files, then he doesn't. And they've completely fumbled the communication with the American people. And Joe Rogan himself even said it like, hey, how do you go from I have thousands of hours of footage, I have all of these files on my desk. Remember, Pam Bondi said the client list was on her desk, pending review, ready for release to the American people like Donald Trump promised. How do you go from that to Trump saying, oh, it's all a Democratic hoax. Obama, Biden, Clinton all wrote the files, or they don't exist. The explanation has been flip-flopping from Donald Trump for quite some time with this whole Epstein thing. How does that happen? And then how is there no follow-up? How is there no explanation for how you went from point A, which is, oh, the files are ready to be released, to point B, which is the files don't exist, or they do exist, they're just fakes by Democrats. It is such utter nonsense. And it just gets even more weird by the day when we get news like this. And they were talking about the meeting that Ghislaine Maxwell was having in Florida, but that she was granted limited immunity to talk to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche in Florida. So she was given immunity by the Trump administration to speak, which is so insane. And of course, Donald Trump floated the idea of pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, which is, I won't swear, crazy, just crazy. But when you have some of the biggest MAGA podcasters in the world saying like, yeah, I'm not down with this. This is bad. This is objectively bad. There's a cover-up going here. It's not transparency. Donald Trump is breaking his promises. That is devastating for Trump and his base. And when we're looking forward to 2026, when we're looking forward to 2028, God willing, we have elections that are free and fair and Donald Trump doesn't try to pull this redistricting stunt that he's going for right now, it will be devastating for Trump and his base. Not only because people are fired up against Trump, but many in the MAGA base just won't vote. They're upset about this. So anyway, I will leave the video there. I just had to show you Joe Rogan going in on Donald Trump and his administration, and of course, Mike Baker, the guest, joining in as well. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.